In 1937, Dr. Samuel Miller was searching for a site that would pioneer a ministry for families and adults. God directed him to this rugged piece of farmland overlooking the north shore of Lake Carlos, just outside Alexandria, Minnesota. Dr. Miller saw the marvelous beauty of the location, and even before talking to the owner, he said to himself, "This is where the dining room and lobby ought to be. And over on that knoll is where the chapel ought to be." He and the owner agreed to the terms, and soon the planning for construction began. One of the original work crew of 7 men is Phil Jesness, who helped clear the land and construct the buildings. Phil is with us now to tell the story from his own memory.
We drove up on this ground on this 22nd of March, and the sun was shining, a beautiful day, and we drove up and we drove right down past to where your cabin is now. That road went right straight up to that, then we kitty-cornered from back up to where the office is now, across the field. When we pulled up in front of that office, and Pastor Stoley was riding with me, and one of the boys driving my car. He got out, and they stepped in, and he said, "Here's where the dining hall is going to be. Here's where the chapel is going to be." And I looked at that corn stubble up there and that rock pile and that rounded hill, and looked over there where there were stoves and big oak trees, and that's where the chapel was going to be. And knowing that they were taking reservations for the 2nd of July for camp, I thought, boy, I must be a little bit crazy. That was my first impression. The next thing was we stopped for prayer, had a prayer group, and unloaded the tools and went to work. Contractors had been hired and were ready to start building by April 1st. The camp was to be completed by mid-June. 37 buildings were built and cold water and electric lights completed by that time. The men I worked with were hired to cut the trees and grub the stumps, remove the rocks, level the ground, and dig the trenches for the footings for the buildings in the chapel and the dining hall. In all, there were 7 carloads of lumber and 5 carloads of cement and truckloads and truckloads of gravel brought out for the building. A dray from Alexandria hauled out all this material to us for the contractor. And the cost of this 40 acres of land, material, and the constructions come to approximately $40,000.
By July 2nd, 1938, these guests were present to enjoy the completed site that Phil and the others had accomplished. And they were the first ones to enjoy Mount Carmel and its ministry that now many thousands have experienced after them. As you can see, not only has the dress changed since those days, but also the automobiles have changed some since 1938. On that dedication moment, even Dr. Miller had to find a suitable pulpit to tell the good news of Mount Carmel's beginning as he shouted it from the housetops. A more recent speaker for Mount Carmel is Edna Huang. She was here first in 1987, and as she told it then, she was the newest convert to Mount Carmel.
Well, in 1 week, I have fallen head over heels in love with Mount Carmel. First of all, there's that marvelous Lake Carlos. Well, here is this beautiful lake that Johann says is the freshest, purest water in the world. We say that about Lake Superior, but it seems to be. And you're on the north side, so the prevailing winds from the south blow across. And I know it was pescally hot back in Minneapolis, but we were cool here all week. And Johann says it's cool all summer because of that breeze. And the beach, sandy beach. I'm not a strong swimmer, but I can walk way out to the to where they dive. And it goes up to my neck, but I feel safe. And they tell me that things go on at night in that sauna. And you know what goes on in that sauna? Theological discussions. And then the food. Oh, it's marvelous. And the staff. I have never met a staff such as I find here at Mount Carmel. They are committed to Christ. They're the most joyous people and the most willing and happy people. And the spiritual Mount Carmel, that's something else again. I have fallen in love with that. Because here I find the gospel proclaimed in its truth and its purity, and it's proclaimed in the old traditional way, but it's also proclaimed in fresh, creative ways. Here at Mount Carmel, you also believe that we are born with mind as well as body and spirit, body and soul. You are born with a mind, and it also believes that women have mind, and that women should use their minds. And so they challenge your minds, and they do that in different ways too.
Others who have provided mental stimulation at Mount Carmel include Marva Dawn, Herb Lotigs, and Dr. Gerhard Frost. These and many others have contributed what Edna has called a stimulation of our mind. When this photo was taken in 1941, you can see that the property had only just begun to be developed. And now, with this new shot, you can see that the land has greened up, the trees have abounded, and the growth of what has happened on the property has been much like the growth of faith that God has accomplished through the work of the Word and the Spirit in that place. Even from the exerciser's point of view, we have continued to carry on that ministry that began so many years ago. In 1987, a very important moment in the history of Mount Carmel took place. For during this year, it was bought and became owned by the organization called Mount Carmel Ministries. This includes all of those who are friends of Mount Carmel, who knew now that they had control over its future. It didn't change the mission, it simply changed the ownership and the ability to control the destiny of what Mount Carmel could be in the years ahead. As you can see from this dedication photo, there was much excitement that day when the new sign was unveiled. Even many old friends gathered to share in this great event of a new dawn of a new day for this beloved ministry. Now the work of a man like Pastor Knock, a great Bible teacher and gardener, will be carried on by these young men, Matt and Dave, and others like these who are working on the roof of one of the many cabins at Mount Carmel. The spirit of joy that meant so much has been expressed through so many, perhaps is best understood by these who have personally experienced the joy of the ministry that Mount Carmel offers. Norm and Irene Myhro have been coming to Mount Carmel since 1961.
We look forward to it as the couple, the two of us, and also as a family, because all of our children have made Mount Carmel kind of a family experience every summer.
Of course, I love the beauty. I think God really blessed us with a beautiful place that can't be compared with anything else, anywhere else. And then I look forward to the time with the family where they can grow together in the Lord in a Christian community.
Might kind of compare it in a sense to the 3 R's, you know, reading, writing, and arithmetic. And only this time we say rest, relaxation, and renewal. And rest and relaxation, of course, are pretty important, but probably the renewal is the most important thing as far as our relationship with our Lord is concerned. We get a chance to do both things, to have the recreation and also to get the renewal.
Pastor Howard Sortland from Minneapolis has had members of his church at Mount Carmel, but even a more important person in his life had a special reason when he went there.
My father-in-law always has been a crusty old character, a serviceman, a career serviceman, and he's had a couple careers since he was in the service. His church affiliations have been almost nil since childhood, where he was raised in a very strong legalistic kind of church experience, and so has pretty much given up church as part of his life. I was sort of a cultural shock to him when I came into the family. Now he had to deal with a religious person. But Still, he remained, his personality is pretty much the same. He attended Mount Carmel, especially for fishing, 2 years ago, and was so impressed with the religious experience and the nature of Christian joy that he saw among the people there, and that he experienced sharing in worship and so forth. It really changed his life. And he went back to his home in Lexington, Kentucky, went to a Lutheran pastor, took instruction, became baptized, and he died shortly thereafter. So it's been a pretty important event in our life.
Phil Jesness has a great story to tell about one of the founders and what it was like to work with one of these leaders of the Lutheran Bible Institute.
Well, we worked 7 days a week, you might say, because everybody was busy and the place was a mess, and we were trying to make a camp out of it. So we just went on, and when we did play, we could play hard. We sneak back, sometimes we'd sneak back in the woods and have a wiener roast or something. So we did one time when we went back, and Pastor Randolph come sneaking up on us, and we were out there and we had a bonfire, and got the cooks that helped us get some wieners and buns and marshmallows, and we were back there about after midnight, and the camp was supposed to be quiet at 10:30. No noise, everybody could sleep. And he heard us back down in the way back in the corner of the woods on beyond where the horses are now. Way back in, it was kind of an open area, and we went into that open area. And here comes Randolph out there and hollers at, "What's going on out here?" He said, "That ain't fair. You can't do this without letting me in on it."
For many years, Hollie Holt came with her parents and enjoyed some special memories as a camper, and also getting acquainted with some special friends through her time at Mount Carmel.
We met a lot of family-type people. You know, you meet them for the first time, and they're just like one of the family, and then they keep on coming back to Mount Carmel. That's kind of your meeting place, and kind of a family reunion type thing. Even though we all are from different parts of the country, we come to there and to get to know one another again and see how things have gone and how we've changed, how we've grown.
As you've heard from these stories, Mount Carmel is a place where people discover the fullness of life that is offered to us through Jesus Christ. It's our desire as the directors of this camp to make it a special place for you, so that when you come here, you will feel welcome and able to find your own story in this unique setting. Sonia can give you some of our interest in making it special for you as well.
Well, the name Mount Carmel was given to this place because it is a place of refreshment. And the real Mount Carmel in Israel was a place for people to be refreshed, and it was a beautiful garden. And that is exactly what Mount Carmel is. People have come back there year after year to find this oasis of joy and excitement for their family and for their individual, personal, spiritual life. As we've seen in Hollie's story and Howard Sortland and his experience, many, many times families have returned to Mount Carmel to regain that sense of themselves in Christ Jesus.
We hope that you will be among those who will find a special place here for yourself, for your family and friends, each summer. You might make Mount Carmel a special place for you.
If you would like more information on this unique camp experience, write to Mount Carmel, Box 579, Alexandria, Minnesota, 56308. In the summer, the phone number is area code 612-846-2744. And in the winter, 612-521-3794.